Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Tony, and this is Dina.
Hello, friends.
And Dina is a longtime senior student at Kabbalah, I think 12 years or so.
Yes,
And
almost
she,
all.
almost all of those
Oh,
years.
yeah.
Yeah. And she's going to help us keep this event on track. She's going to read your questions and add to what we're doing here. Um, and I want to ask, we're being joined not only by the Kabbalah Revealed students who are in the first and second semester, but also by people who are watching on YouTube, people who've been watching Wednesday Wisdom or who are just the curious, and also on Facebook. So, but the questions that we want to deal with, though they can come from all of those venues where we're open to answering everybody's questions, we really do also want to give those people who are sort of peeking into this a sense of what the study is like, what's happening for you, and what the interaction is like, what sorts of questions come when you are being exposed to the methodology and to the concepts that are coming from the texts and so on. So I'm asking you, students, please turn your if you're decent and you're not doing something you're not supposed to be doing on camera, please turn your camera on. Um, it's the most sort of interesting types of questions are the ones in which we're interacting on screen. I can see you, you can see me, we can hear each other, and it's perfectly fine if when you ask a question you want to do a follow-up question. Maybe the answer has taken you so far, but you need another clarification. Feel free to ask again. So, of course, you can, as you know, KR 1 and 2 students, you can write question in the chat, but we truly prefer that you ask live questions. You don't need to be shy. You don't need to worry about it. Really, what happens is your question is not just yours. It actually is helping everybody. It's coming from another place, and it's what opens things up for everybody. So turn your camera on. Help your friends in this situation by communicating, on camera, and that's how we're going to conduct the event. You have been learning so far concepts. Well, it's more than concepts. There's a certain dose of light that happens when people study. It comes from a number of different aspects to the kind of decisions that we make when we begin learning. One of them has to do with, okay, I'm going to learn. And I'm going for this, and I'm going to take in as much of this as I can. And along with that is a sensation that there's something that can be gained from this. There's a sensation that you're in touch with something, and that things are being clarified for you. And there's an inspiration that you feel. You're turned on. Like part of it is something that's sort of pulling you. The light is kind of pulling you. And your ego is also pushing you because all of the things that it sees that there is a great benefit here for you. Well, actually, it thinks it's a great benefit for it, but right now it's helping you. And what's really important about these concepts that you're being exposed to is that in each one of them, there is a seed of its opposite. There's something that is transformative in the concepts. At least it's the beginning of transformation. There is a dose of light that comes with the commitment, with the sensation that you are in contact with something great. And then there's also, to the degree that in these courses you are exposed to elements coming directly from the tradition, from the texts, and you receive sort of the words and the targets for your development. There is a powerful influence on us. And in the end, really what happens as you develop, these principles and concepts will be expanded into a whole methodology that really embraces all aspects of your life. It's like a practical application of these things. And as I said, each one of these concepts has in it a kind of an opposite seed that eventually flips our perception of what it is our life is, what we're dealing with, what we are, what we're connected to, and everything becomes illuminated by another quality, a quality of perfection, the spiritual quality of the force of connection between things, where we don't feel separated, where we're not limited only to our intellectual knowledge and all of that. And you're at the beginning of this process, and you already have somewhat of a taste of it. So I'm sure that you have many questions about, well, what exactly is this principle for? How is it applied? How can I understand it better? What is it aimed at changing exactly in me? How do I work with it? How can I better understand it? And so let's deal with all of those, plus anything that has to do with your spiritual development, spiritual questions, things about Kabbalah, state of the world, or whatever. But for KR 1 and 2 students, let's see if we can sort of roll out and expand what you've already been learning. And before we get to that, we'll play a little clip about the nature of the study of Kabbalah, and then we'll get to the questions.
There's a science that deals only with the most essential purpose, covering the greatest possible scope, and specifically how we come to know and live in it. It gives us a practical, very human way of studying the highest natural forces, their place in us and our place in them. It's the essential science of meaning and everything that results from it. And in it, rather than beginning by examining physical matter, it starts with a view of life in this world as seen from the perspective of those forces that build and evolve it, and then describes how to reveal our conscious sensation of its purpose in us. So we're going to use its insights to peek into that gap. The science is called Kabbalah, which is a Hebrew word that means reception, how to receive and perceive. Its findings make it clear that what you think of as meaning and inexplicably long for is in fact the desire to relate to the highest, most comprehensive dimension of life. That your longing and doubt are required to make you capable of grasping the purpose and meaning, because they're the container in which you'll eventually receive it. Not only that, it describes exactly what the purpose of life is from the point of view of that dimension, and how this larger goal becomes activated only if and when you consciously engage with it, and not with something else that you imagine. And because its purpose is constantly aimed at your development, it's as if it's waiting for you to reveal it. And somewhere, even if ever so faintly, you feel that. There is a single cause, an impetus underlying, unfolding everything that ever happens. It's a natural mechanism, a law, but the only form in which the human heart is able to perceive and relate with it is as an intention called the thought of creation, and that is to create a creature and to bring it to complete fulfillment. That is both a description of the highest force and dimension of nature and the ultimate purpose of all life. What does that thought have to do with the meaning of your life? You could take the creature part of that equation personally, and it would only be partly true, because the creature in the thought of creation is our entire reality, the cosmos. Every object in it, all its cascading, lesser, non-physical forces and dimensions, everything and anything outside of that intention is the creature. And nothing that has ever happened, is happening, or ever will happen can happen for any other reason or to serve any other purpose. So no matter how events may feel to us, we're always held, nurtured, and evolved by the action of an unwavering force of giving, a constant, unperceived positive influence that's the very essence of meaning. So in the first place, you're already in all of this, and all of this is already in you. The thing that's concealing the profound interrelation, that's preventing us from feeling our true identity, is the exact quality that makes us the creature.
Okay, so let's get to the questions.
Yes, we have a lot of questions. So first question is from Eddie, who is watching us on YouTube channel. I'm following you from Kenya, and I always wanted to become a Kabbalist. What can I do?
Eddie, all the way from Kenya. Well, that's something to always wanted to be a Kabbalist. And too bad I can't ask you a question that you could answer me. How far back does that really go? And is that a matter of time, or is that just a matter of depth of feeling, that always quality? What you can do is you can join an online class. It starts out as a kind of a self-study, interactive process. A person has to begin by, excuse me, friends, by unlearning a lot of concepts that are based on a kind of egoistic framework, sort of illusionary framework. And so it takes time, and it takes exposure to authentic materials, which have in them, as I said in the opening, they have a transformative quality to them. You can join a course. There is registration going on now for these. Are what you're seeing here is KabU students. You're seeing they're in the process. They've been studying a course which I presented on tape, so to speak, and there are interactive elements in it. And then we have this question and answer thing. You can register at KabU. Doesn't cost you anything to register. You can start getting exposed to the materials and begin the learning process. Kabbalah is not like a self-help thing. It's not a single dose once and for all. It is a process, and it's a methodology, and it has to be learned in a systematic way. And the next Kabbalah Revealed course starts July 14th. And if you go to the site, they'll put the link into the chat, hopefully on YouTube as well. You can go there, take a look at the site, check it out, sign up for it, and become one of the students. Now, it's not just, what we teach is not just Kabbalah Revealed 1 and 2. There's a whole arc of development that's available to a person. You can go from the basic principles to deeper principles, to work directly with others in the methodology, and you'll see why as we answer some of these questions that are probably going to come, why that's very important, and takes a person to a kind of what we call a graduate level, in which they begin to see things differently and work with the forces in nature in a very different way in an ongoing fashion. Becoming a Kabbalist is like, it's kind of a way of life. It's changing the way we see and the way we think, and all of that takes training. And all of that will start with you signing up for a simple course and just check it out, see how it feels. Yes, no, doesn't matter. If you always wanted to become a Kabbalist, maybe you'll stick with it. If you don't like it, then you checked it out.
The next question is related to this course. So Helton from YouTube, he's from Brazil, and he's asking, I would like to ask if learning through KabU fills that need for a master to learn Kabbalah, or do I need a Kabbalist near me?
Oh, you're saying, is it the same thing, studying with KabU? Is it the same as if you had a Kabbalistic master sitting in front of you? That mode of the passing of the wisdom no longer functions in this era. It isn't. It's not an individual process, not between a master and a student anymore, because who is learning and what is under correction is not just you. It is the collective soul of humanity, uh, because we're one thing. And you are a representative, an aspect, a spark of that. And the correction, and because Kabbalah is revealed, and because the forces in the world are so evidently showing us precisely what we're up against, what the problems are, what the illusion is, and that we're not going to be able to proceed without the sense of connection to the whole system of the whole human system, and beyond that, its roots into the whole system of nature. Unless we rise to that level now, we're not really doing what Kabbalah teaches. Kabbalah teaches us to live in that holistic, complete, boundless reality as a true citizen of a completely different reality, a perception of reality. So yes, Kabyu provides the laws of nature and an ability for you to learn the principles and then work with those laws as you progress. And it is an exactly equal process to the ancient process of learning in a small group directly from a master, or in cases where it was particularly hidden, just directly from a Kabbalist to a student. Everything has changed, and we're in a much better state, and the stakes are much higher. And this is the way to learn it. Thanks for your question.
We have live question from Milam.
There we go. Good afternoon. Great to be here with everyone. Thank you for having me. So my question is, what is your favorite practice to play kind of with the forces of nature? Get that interplay, that negotiation and feeling of being in touch and kind of interacting with the creator and the powers.
There's really only one mode of interacting with it, and it's to learn to interact outside of the self. Everything inside the self is the will to receive. Everything outside the will to receive is the quality of the creator. Eventually, what will happen for you, and there's no point in sort of jumping the shark with this. It's impossible to skip a single step. It's a ladder, right? And the rungs are far apart. They're very far apart. There's like a null between each rung on the ladder, and you can't jump ahead. And what you will learn as you progress is that in order to be in touch with correctly with the connective force of love in nature, you have to do that with other people. And this process that you're learning now are principles leading you into the opportunity to actually do that with others. And this is, I'll give you a hint, that all this stuff that about the 10 Sephirot, that people think we can have individual access to this thing, that whole sense of the paths between those, they all have to do with the relationship and overcoming the distance between me and you, another. That is, to see the other as self, to actually experience it, to have our reality change in such a way that what we're experiencing is not the points, not the me, not the ego of me and the ego of you, but that quality between us, which is the force of nature, which is actually where the light and where the creator and where reality exists. The single points, the you and me, are really not where reality is. These are viewing points, they're jumping off points in order to start a process by which we ascend and eventually live, like I said, become citizens of this. So there is no practice but to work with others in a Kabbalistic group, which is a simulation of the forces of nature. And you will get to that. There's no meditation, there's no contemplation, because what has to happen is that our entire reality has to change. No single part of it can separate and contemplate, or whatever the process one might think. It has to be a complete infusion and engagement with all of this. And that's what's really different about the process of Kabbalah. It teaches a person how to do this in a very natural and human way, and you will have those opportunities as you progress in these courses. Now, that's not to say that you don't experience beauty, and beauty is only a connection in its vastness. It's awesome, truly. And we're all given sparks, and we're all seeded with light in order to inspire us. Eventually, we get to a place through these connections where we actually create that light between us. But hang on, and each rung on the ladder will bring you and everyone closer and closer to this. You're already held in this circle because you're studying. Okay.
We have 3 more live questions. Friends, thank you. We're always happy to hear, to see you.
Mm-hmm.
So next one is from Sarah. Live question from Sarah.
So my question is when I first started learning Kabbalah, I felt like the concepts really resonated with me. I felt connected to the community. I felt connected to what I was learning, and I could feel what I was applying, albeit very small, to the environment around me. And then I started noticing that I would have these periods of, I guess I could call it darkness, where I felt completely disconnected. I had no desire to learn. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to do anything else but that because it didn't feel fulfilling. And I still stuck with it. I kept learning. I kept reading, and eventually it would pass. Is that normal? And if so, what is it, and what do I do with it?
Yeah, not only is it normal, it's absolutely necessary. I got something going on with my throat. Hold on a second. You know, that's what throws everybody off the spiritual path, no matter what path they're on. These crises of faith are simply not understanding how nature works with us. And we, in general, 99% of those who have, who aspire to reach connection with the quality of the Creator or to reach spirituality are thrown off the path because of this phenomenon. This is exactly what Kabbalah teaches. It's how useful that is and how much that is an essential, that is the force of development. And it also allows us to see the transformation taking place. Now, at first, when you begin to study, your ego is very pleased with the process. My goodness. I'm one of the special people. I responded. I feel brave now. I'm connected with something. I'm going to learn something that I've always wanted. And all of these things are very satisfying to the ego. But what we're being taught, what we ultimately want to learn, is not to be a prisoner of the ego. So, to your benefit, because you're being exposed to the light, eventually the ego gets no pleasure from it. It goes, nah, there's nothing in this for me. Bingo. Because it is not where the truth is. And it will always try to turn us away from the greatness of the goal, from the reality of spirituality, and put us back into our shell of self-concern. When these things happen, it's actually not a fall, it actually is spiritual advancement. And there's the methodology of Kabbalah, along with the connection to others, is this process by which we learn to rise above the emptiness of the ego and work with the quality of the light. And also when this happens, Sarah, is you're in a place of free will. Up until that point, you're being run like a robot by your will to receive. It's getting pleasure out of everything, and then it comes to a point where the dose of light is too strong and it goes, oh no, that's like That means there's nothing for me in this. And you have to go to a place where you rise above that, and there's your opportunity. Because up until that point, you didn't have any free will. You were either being pulled by some bright light, or you're being pushed by your ego. Go get that for me. Go get spirituality and bring it back to me. And now you're not influenced by either the light or your ego. And now, whatever you do in that gap, that is your own intention. That's a true act. That's a spiritual act, because the Creator is not dependent on anything in order to be constantly bestowing, giving, and support of creating and directing life. Nothing hampers the quality of bestowal. And likewise, there is nothing that is either going to make you do it or stop you from doing it. It will be a quality within you that will say to rise above this in what we call faith above reason, because everything that's in our ego is the sort of polluted reason. It's like a mixed reason that wants everything for itself. But the quality of the Creator wants everything for the system. And now you have an opportunity to be unfettered by any of those forces except the pure will to bestow, which is alive in your own intention. You'll learn more about this process. This is what you're learning, precisely that.
We have a few more live questions, but I'll go now to the question from Jason on Zoom, because it sounds like continuation from what you've started to talk about. So Jason is saying, my first question is, can you please clarify the difference between will to receive and ego?
Okay. The ego, as a general psychological function, is an absolute necessity. It is actually the definition of existence. It puts boundaries on things. It's a positive force that gives the boundaries of the body, the intellect, it sort of makes us a creature. It separates us, and it's positive. It's got to do with just sort of necessity and the beginning of a process, which is a process of transformation and spiritual fulfillment. It is a starting point. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. This is how nature makes the creature. Just this basic separation, and now you are a vessel that can receive the spiritual pleasure that nature, the law of nature created by the Creator. That's all it does. It fills you up. That's good. Now, the will to receive is something else. It is only in relation to the light of the Creator. What do I want to do with this spiritual fulfillment? For whom am I engaged in this? Is it aimed at my own fulfillment, or is it aimed at the fulfillment of the whole? In other words, to give pleasure and to share that pleasure and to be equal with and to cleave to that quality of nature and to be the same as it on the intentional level. This is above the ego. There's nothing wrong with the ego. All the systems of the body are all separated. The cells of the body are all individual, and yet even on that level they work together for the health and the fulfillment of the whole. So on the spiritual level, in relation to the light, to what you receive, to the awakenings that you receive, to the inspiration that you get, the will to receive aims at your own fulfillment, and the will to bestow aims it at the well-being of the whole on the higher level, on the speaking level, on the truly human level. Ego has to do with the animate or the animal level of our existence, of being a person on earth, and the will to receive is a component of the spiritual level, the speaking, truly human level, above the animal level.
Okay, let's go to the live question from Nima.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Yes, we hear you, Nima. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. On some website I noticed a tree of life diagram in Sefirot with another circle named dot. I don't know how to pronounce it. A dot in absolute level. I searched about it, but I cannot trust what I read. Can you give an excellent explanation about it, please? Thank you.
There's no basis for me to give you an explanation of what that is. You have to have experience of an actual inner practical experience of what the Sephiroth and the tree is. Those definitions that you'll see in general on the web uh, are just concoctions of psychological and sort of even cognitive processes. They're not at all. There's no basis there for any understanding at all of what Sephiroth are. Um, so without having some experiential basis of what it means to relate to a complete partsuf, a complete spiritual body, unless one can feel that in a practical way inside of them, any words that are said about those will only mislead you. You will eventually find that out. See, the thing is, we can't approach. It's a very advanced experience. It's when we really start working with and influencing the system. And you can't learn that from the top down just by using those terms. What's valuable about the terms is that they are accurate in terms of spiritual properties, let's say, spiritual objects. And it helps us aspire, and just hearing the words, just hearing the terminology, Keter Chochma Bina, Malchut, Da'at, all of those things, to just be exposed to those things has a certain amount of light in it, not because of just what they are objectively, but because of what happens in you in wanting to know them. The desire you have and the greatness that you feel about being able to experience that's the vessel in which you advance. That's how you draw the light. But I'm not very careful about jumping ahead and giving you some kind of a pro forma type of explanation without experience. That's what people have been doing and misunderstanding for 2,000 years since Kabbalah has been hidden. Here you have an opportunity to learn every aspect of that from the ground up, and you will begin to work with 10 Sephiroth in your working relationship with a group of people in a really live interaction, which Kabyu will supply to you as you go to the more graduate levels. It doesn't take that long to get there, but you'll experience that directly.
Okay, next question from okay, we have a live question on Zoom from Dorian. Dorian, go on, please.
Yes, thank you for your time. Thank you for guys showcasing this for all of us to learn. My question is, how can Kabbalah help one further his learning in other esoteric and Gnostic principles in understanding natural law? So, for example, me learning Kabbalah, I'm learning the actual practical tools in building my spirit, but how can that also transfer to learn other esoteric and Gnostic principles in understanding the natural law that we live under?
Okay, Kabbalah is complete. It contains the entire library of the laws of nature. You frankly you can't learn Kabbalah if you're mixing it with other approaches, because it takes giving one's whole spirituality is whole. There's nothing in spirituality that is a piece. Everything we touch in spirituality is complete and whole, and is runs through the whole system of nature. You will learn all of those things through what you're learning now and as you progress. Unless there is no more comprehensive package access to the laws of nature than the methodology of Kabbalah, because you begin to see them all working, and you work with them. And it's not esoteric. The only thing that makes it esoteric is the lack of desire in people. But your desire needs to be a whole desire in order to touch what we call spiritual, or the laws of nature, the wholeness of nature. A tentative or a piecemeal approach in which we study here, there, and everywhere will render nothing in terms of opening up the spiritual. It takes a focus. So I would suggest that you dive deeply, and if it works, great. And if it doesn't, then look somewhere else for it. We're not discouraging looking elsewhere for it, but to make Kabbalah work, it takes wholeness in you and in your focus.
Live question from Andy, please.
We don't hear you, Andy, for some reason.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. What I learned from Kabbalah is if we are the humankind on our way to correction, okay? So why didn't the Creator from the beginning create us in perfection form? Why all this journey? And after I finished the four level of Kabbalah, now I need to move on. I think that I am stuck. I need to move on. I don't know what to do now. Thank you.
Okay, so before I answer the first part of your question, what level have you completed in Kabyu?
For
What does that?
Kabbalah revealed 1 and 2, and Kabbalah experience, and 2 with you and 2 with Julian.
Okay. There is. Hello, can you see me? Oh, yeah. There's another level, and it's the graduate environment. And it is in the graduate environment in which everything that you've learned, you now get to, it comes into play in a very practical manner. You start working as a serious student in an ongoing way with all of that. And that's where the practicality and the connections and the levers of everything that you're exposed to begin to work. That is an environment that's led by, I don't know if you don't know Zohar yet, but he's really a great teacher, and you get to practice all of that. That's where the true simulator is. So look forward to that, and you'll get the information on that soon. The first part of your question was, I forgot what it was.
What's another part? It was just about that.
No, there was no. There was, what was it? Repeat it for me.
I was asking. I was learned that the humankind is on its way to perfection, and to its correction. So why didn't the Creator from the beginning create the humankind in perfection form? Why this journey? Why this hard journey with a lot of pain? Why?
Yeah, Creator, why? Because that wouldn't have been perfection. You see, the Creator wants to give us, we were created actually in a perfected state at the very beginning. You know, in the four phases of direct light, there is that first vessel. Like there was the thought of creation, and it was to create a creature and to fill it completely with delight. So it did that. As soon as it did that, there was like the creature, or let's say the matrix or the outline of the creature appeared in order to receive all that. But you see, that is not pleasure. That's not fulfillment, because we would have been robots. What the fullness of everything, perfection, means to be similar to the Creator. And being similar to the Creator means also independent. You know, not dependent on anything, but that the quality of the Creator lives in us as though it were the Creator. And that means that he has to, that the creative force in nature creates a path of development for us. It's like the law of evolution, the spiritual law of evolution, that brings us from just being subject to the Creator and run completely by the Creator, in which we are more or less not in agreement with any of that, until we eventually come to the place where we sense, feel, and are infused with his quality, and we're not dependent on him. We are an independent creature, and yet we have similarity of form. We cling to exactly that force. That's what perfection is. And by the way, that's what fulfillment is. We would never settle for it. There would have been no point to creation at all, to just be static. There has to be, everything is about difference, comparison, and acceleration. Otherwise, we wouldn't experience perfection. We have to be in some kind of opposing and accelerating medium in order to feel the perfection. Think about it.
Jonathan from YouTube, after he's listening for all these people who have accomplished different courses, so he's asking, this wisdom sounds amazing. How do I take those courses people were talking about? Is there a cost?
Well, the cost to the student. There's a cost to us. I mean, we're basically a volunteer organization, and the people who have studied this, like Dina and I and all of our friends who studied this, we want to share this with people. So we volunteer our time, and we pay for servers and for so there's a cost to us, but we try to provide it without a cost barrier at all to anybody who wants it. So we have so basically you come in, you can learn for free. We have a thing called pay what you wish. That is, what is it worth to you, and what can you do or not. We don't compel people to do anything, but and we don't want anybody to be left out. So a student decides for themselves. Maybe somebody wants to pay for somebody else. Now you can pay a little bit for yourself, something for somebody else, or not if you can't. But what it's worth to you, and understand that what we're trying to do here is we're learning to take pleasure in bestowal, which is like completely opposite to us. We don't like that. But at the same time, we don't coerce anything, because you can't learn, you can't become spiritual without this independence. So it's up to you. It costs us about $25 a student per semester in our costs. And if you can do that, great. And if you can't do it, do what you can. That's basically it. So don't worry about it, except for what benefit you might get out of it by helping other people do it. I forgot my bell, but I have a replacement for it. Dina, explain what we're going to do.
Okay, so we'll start the blitz now. The idea here is to ask. We have three minutes. What?
3 minutes.
No, 3
3 minutes on the clock.
Yes, 3 minutes. Yes, 3 minutes right here, and we want to ask as many questions as possible, and we'll see, Tony.
Yeah, I
how
get
good. Okay.
how good, how smart, and how
Yeah.
quick, and I get a big prize at the end of it. Let's go.
Okay. Does Kabbalah believe in the existence of the creator of the heavens and the earth?
There is a force that we call the creator. Yes.
Does Kabbalah believe in God that communicates with men?
It is a force of bestowal, and there is nothing but that, so it's constantly in communication with man.
How does Kabbalah explain the impact of power of fasting?
Well, there's a screen in Kabbalah, which is that one makes a choice as to whether one will receive for yourself or receive for others. That's the purpose of fasting. It's to make this distinction and not to do something with your body.
Is it impossible to cross the Mahsam?
No, it is eminently possible, and that's what you're here to learn. Oops.
How does one function in two worlds simultaneously?
This is because there is a thing called faith above reason. It's not that there are just two. There is a third aspect here. There's a middle line to Kabbalah, and this is the big difference between Kabbalah and everything else. And you will learn how to do that. And I can't explain it in like 30 seconds. Is
Kabbalah self-salvation?
Self-salvation?
Yeah.
No, it is the salvation of self completely. It's other salvation. It's the freedom from self. It's all the good stuff without the limitations of self.
What does Kabbalah think about homosexuality?
It doesn't think anything. It's a desire amongst all desires, and a desire is either done in bestowal or reception, and we don't make separations between people because of their desires. That's just the animal level.
What is the right attitude for attaining a soulmate?
Everyone is your soulmate. It's whether or not you're willing to bridge the differences with people, and whoever you end up marrying or being with, that's also given to us by nature. There's not much that we can do or need to do about it. It just works that way.
Tony, in Genesis, is man's ego represented by the serpent?
Yes, it is correct.
What makes desire good or bad?
The intention behind the desire. For whom are you doing something? It's not the what. We don't care about the desires. Everybody's got desires. Nobody's got intentions. And once you have intention and you're working with it, that is what determines good or bad. Again with the bad one.
What does Kabbalah says about men trying to play God?
Well, we can't.
Jacob's letter in you is the point in the heart?
No, it's the Partsufim and the steps that we rise up through the worlds.
Can you please define?
It's over.
Oh, it's over.
Was anybody counting?
Okay, yes, I think I was. I tried to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 questions.
No, it's got to be.
Minute.
It's got to be more than that. Were any of you counting? How many was that?
Oh, sorry. No. My bad. Not 9. It was 9 plus 3, actually. So it's 11.
All right. That's
11.
better.
11 questions.
That's
yeah.
better.
Okay, so let's see. We have another live question from Joe.
Thanks from Seattle, and thank you so much for doing this. I read in the lesson this week about correction, and I think I'm understanding that if one of us makes a correction, it affects or uplifts all of us?
Yes, that's correct. First of all, in the general system, just in nature, every action ripples everywhere. We just don't have a sensor for that. We can't see it. In the work that we do, that you will do later on in tens, which are the 10 Sephirot, that's a hint. When you're doing that work and you're working on behalf of the shared quality between you, everything that one achieves is done intentionally for the benefit of others. So it's not only that it affects everybody; it's that those working on it, they feel it, they know it, they track it, and they understand that it's coming from the center of that working group. And when we begin to experience that, which is something wonderful to look forward to, and you begin to experience it, you now can feel how that actually works in the larger system. But I think to the question that you're asking, yes, anytime you do that, or anytime a friend does that, it sort of raises the whole quality of everything that's going on. And that's why, even if people in the world, if people understand that all they really have to do is to have this sort of consideration for each other, and even in small social circles, if that's how they are working, if they are connecting to others, if they're trying to bridge differences, especially hatred, this is where the most light comes in. If they're working that way in order to still be able to connect, and connection is giving, actually, that's what bestowal is. That actually is how you solve every problem in the world. The sort of side effect of these individual acts, making connections between people, is the general health of the entire system, human system, system of nature below us, and our alignment with the system above us.
A live question from Robert.
Hello. I've been on this path for a little bit now, via trauma, and I'm interested in further developing my knowledge and sharing the knowledge I have with your agency, or anyone for that matter. That's what I do all day. I bestow, and it is wonderful. My question is, how do you recognize one who has the capability of bestowal?
Recognize if one has the ability to bestow? Is that the question? Your sound's a little funny. Can you
The challenge is being seen as one capable of bestowing. I'm walking around with this gift, this craft, reaching out to your folks and not receiving any callbacks. I just wonder if I can be recognized as having achieved a certain thing if I can't be seen. So the question is, how does one convey this capability to the layperson?
Well, if I'm understanding your question, it doesn't matter whether we are seen as being capable or even as bestowing. Can you see the Creator? No, the Creator is completely hidden. This is the nature of bestowal, is that it's done with concern only for the one that's being bestowed to, or to the general system. The other part that I think I heard in your question, so it doesn't matter. Essentially, it doesn't matter what the feedback is. If one already feels this, that they're not seen, that could be a good thing, because. But I'm not sure that I'm getting that part of your question. The second part is, how does one know if they're capable of it? To begin with, nobody's capable of it. We're all created in a way in which we are completely in opposite phase to this spiritual quality. And we don't, when we begin to learn, what we're trying to develop is not the ability to bestow, but to have the desire. We wish that we had the desire even to be able to bestow. And in the beginning of the path, that's what we're developing. That we would want to even want something that it's completely against our nature to want. And so you're not in a different position actually than everybody else. Everybody is really in that place, whether they recognize it as well as you do right now, and you represent yourself as hello darkness, my old friend. You're actually very close to what's so about the inner condition of everybody here, whether their room is lit brightly or not. So you're in the right place to develop this desire, and you're already expressing that you wish that you had that. So that's good. Carry on, and more light will come.
Daniel from Instagram is asking, I've seen you offer some of your books for free online. Is there any reason to have books in physical form? Which ones are the most essential?
Oh, yeah, because we have books that you can get in electronic form. Is this a student who's asking?
Yes, Daniel from Instagram. That's
from Instagram?
Instagram.
So it's not a student. Okay. Well, there's a difference between physical books and books online. We do offer it because there are people on the other side of the world who want to study, and shipping books to places in Asia or Africa is very difficult, and it takes a long time. So we also offer it in digital form, but the physical form is really has a very different. You can get the data out of the digital form, but the relationship and the sensation of the author that remains with you and that is sort of written into nature, in the same way that it's printed on a page, has got a root in natural law. The fact that the digital stuff disappears when you turn it off means that it's only appealing to the ego or to reason, whereas the book, even though you can have moments of penetration with it, I'm not saying that you don't learn from it or you don't get some light, but with the book itself, this relationship with the author and the sensations of the author is much more tangible. It's like inscribed into nature, into wood, using ink, and as an object that our lower nature can caress. So the sensation is different, but it's if you can't, you can't. But I advise you really to go with the physical books. What books? Well, we have these. We have sets of books that have got to do with the different levels of courses. We've got a slide for the Kabbalah Revealed books. Yeah, so those are essential books. The most essential book is as far as I'm concerned, is in part 1. It's called Kabbalah for the Student. The others are also, they're great books. They're about the emotional aspect of things, and then there's books about the sort of physical, scientific aspect of the work. Kabbalah for the student is the most comprehensive. It covers everything, including social articles, how this stuff is relevant to the world, how it changes things in human society, plus the science, plus things about the emotional changes and spiritual work that goes on in the heart of a person. And these are, if you're a student, these are there's a special deal. You get 20% off when you buy these. And if you could put those links to that stuff, to how to get it into the various chats, you can check those things out for yourself. And you'll also, let's leave it at that. Those are the books.
Okay, let's go to sorry, live.
It's catching.
Yes, it's catching. Tony, let's go over a live question from Cindy.
Cindy, you're muted.
Oh, we didn't hear you. We didn't hear you. You're muted. You were muted. Can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me now? We got a problem with
Okay, let's try maybe.
Yeah, let's go to one of the other questions.
Yeah, we have another question, another one. We have live question from Rena, and let's maybe then we come back to Cindy. So, Rena?
No sound.
No.
Can you hear us? Can you nod your head if you can hear me? We have a problem. I don't know what's going on with the Zoom, but for some reason, none of your. I want to hear Cindy's question. I want to hear your question, but it's not coming through. Can the moderator simply unmute them, or do we have more of a problem than that?
YouTube. Since there is none else beside him, the creator, if someone tries to hurt me, should I defend myself or let it be because it is the creator's will?
Well, saying that there's none else besides, it's not like this kind of faith below reason thing where we just say, oh, it's all the creator, it's okay, I don't have to do anything. It's none else besides him is really a target for the change in perception of reality. That is, that all of the forces that we have, including the actions that we take, are things that we do for our health or our defense, our well-being, or all of that, things we do for others, and what people do to us. It's all of that comes into play, but it's all it's all changed in that we see that these actions are all actions of good for good. It's like good actions for good outcome. So as far as the way that we should respond to things happening in our life, even though the creator is the source of everything, we still do everything as a normal person would do. If a dog's biting you, kick him away or run away from the dog. It's like you don't allow yourself to be hurt and sort of cut off all of your your knowledge and what you know. It's not like you separate your animal level from this process. The whole goal of none else besides him is to raise everything to a higher level, and every capability that we were given by nature is useful. None else besides him is to tell us to aim and to understand that it's really that everything that's happening is really an action of bestowal from above, and that we need to act in the same way. We don't let people run over us, but what we do is we try to, before we do anything, unless it's just reflexive, because we're supposed to survive, then you consider where did it come from. Do I think this is a random act? Do I think that person is bad or good? No. There's something, there's some lesson, there's some good purpose behind this. And even though I can't feel that right now in my will to receive and in my egoistic response to things, at least attribute it, that this action, to a good action of the Creator, and then things begin to change. We begin to see differently, different processes happen inside of our heart. But we don't make ourselves victims, and this is not a matter of blind faith. We engage what we know to the degree that we can, and then we go above that.
So we actually have Rena's question here posted. So, hi Tony, my question is, how can Kabbalah help me realize the purpose of my life?
Because it outlines a process that we're all undergoing. You included. I mean, how would you not be included in the broadest process in nature? It describes where we came from. It describes what we are. We were kind of a desire. And it tells us why this desire was created outside of the initial force that we call the Creator. Why? Why are we here? What are we actually? And where are we going? And what are the processes and forces that move us along this path of evolution? What's being evolved and towards what? Simply speaking, Kabbalah tells us that the purpose of life is to become like the force of the Creator. It's like being created something out of nothing, but that something that was made was the opposite of this force of giving. And now it's going to learn to overcome all of its limitations, and it's going to become more and more like the force of bestowal, the nature of the Creator, and less restricted, suffer less and less, restricted less and less, and it's going to resist less and less until you take in all of life, of beingness without limitation, and all pleasure without limitation. The purpose of your life is to go through this process and to experience the ecstatic quality of being part and parcel of the intention of the Creator that animates all, that is and animates all life. It's not some little thing it's not some kind of, I'm supposed to get this job and have this family and get this outcome. All of that goes into the soup. That's all just part of the evolutionary detail. But that's not what our evolution is for, and those are not the purposes of our lives. It's the ultimate purpose of life that Kabbalah tells us about. And how it helps you is that it teaches you at each state to see it as more, not just to see it, but to experience it as more and more and more and more and more, until we are it. That's the purpose of life.
Next question from Sarah from Instagram. How can Creator feel if an action is for sake of bestowal and love?
Well, I don't quite get the question. You mean, how does the one who adjudicates whether it is or it isn't, how does he do it? How does that force do it?
How can Creator feel, in quotation mark, if an action is for sake of bestowal and love?
Right. So you're saying that there's a judgment that happens external to you, and he says, no, that one wasn't bestowal. No, try another one. See if you can hit this ball. When your thought, when an action or a desire that you have is aimed at fulfilling somebody else, you know, it's up to you. You're the one who eventually is the judge. Um, because you know you are the observer on this level. Uh, it's like if you care that your friend becomes enlightened, if the reason you are working now is to help everybody else who's watching this, those who are studying and who have the same desire as you, and even those who are not studying but have this inkling, and that's why they're watching this. If you're saying, "Oh, I wish that my friends and all of those people would feel it. I wish they would feel it. Even if I don't feel it right now, even if my room is dark, like our friend who asked that question." Then the creator knows that's because you used the creator's quality in order to direct that desire. It's it's very subtle, and it's something that has to develop in you, and you have to be in the right environment in order to be able to get a sense. Because right now there's no resistance, there's nothing to measure. You're working only with your own feelings against what? Against a kind of a vague target, even though it's a spiritual target. Once you start, as you progress in Kabyu, once you start working with this with other people, and it has to be with people who are studying. It can't just be out in the world. It doesn't work like that, because they're not aimed at anything. Once you do that, then you get the kind of feedback that says, "I'm on" or "I'm off," and you feel it like inside, like that thing that you don't like, that feeling of shame, that gap between giving and bestowal. We feel that bestowal and receiving. We feel that as a pang of shame. Oh, I didn't. It's a good thing. It's the meter. It's what tells you whether it's bestowal or reception. You'll see that, and you probably already have a little bit of that now anyway. It grows, and the sensation, the creator's approval happens. You feel it in you. Do we have the sound fixed, or do we still have that problem?
That was just something with the mics of these two people. It wasn't like
it wasn't a general problem?
No,
okay,
it wasn't
good.
A general problem. Okay, so let's try Cindy. Let's try you again. Maybe, hopefully, it's fixed now.
Okay, I made a mistake. I'm sorry. I think they unmuted at the same time I am muted. So, but this is great, because in that time, Tony, you answered the questions that I had, mainly just from that idea of the thought, the importance of the thought, and how we can make a difference now. And so that was my question, and you did sort of answer it in that last statement, but I wanted just to come on and just repeat that. And if you don't have anything else to say about that, that's fine, but that was my question. Thank you.
How did you put it? Was it exactly the same question?
Can you hear me? Okay. I was going to say that I liked what you said about we wish we had the desire to want, to have the will to bestow. And it, as a beginner, you like you want to do things, but then you realize, wait, I don't know that much. I've not experienced that much. I haven't changed. I'm not corrected. And then you just think, okay, well, I have to wait till I get like a degree or a certificate and to have any type of change. But then you're experiencing life, and all these thoughts and these feelings come in, and you want to do something, but then you kind of hold back. You think, well, wait, I can't do anything. I don't have anything to give. I'm not going to say anything or feel anything, or kind of suppress all that. So I guess that's what I'm saying. You kind of answered it with that first statement of answer to one of the other ladies that you gave, and then just recently about the thoughts. So I'll finish there.
Actually, there's a distinction in the way that you asked the question, and it's not that we have to wait for anything. We mustn't wait. We have to accelerate it. And actually, the attempt to do it, to try, to watch what happens, and that is, you don't wait until you're corrected. That we are in a process which is called correction, and the correction comes with the discernments that you get when you attempt. And then there are sensations that come with it. Yes, no, you see what you did and didn't do, and then you attempt again. And that's how you learn. If you don't, it's a feedback thing. It's the same thing as anything else that you learn in life, but it's very specific, and it has to be very focused and contained in a specific environment in order for you to maximize the feedback loop. Because out in the world, the feedback loop just breaks down at the other end. Nobody else is engaged in it. So you can get some preliminary information about what goes on inside of you. You're not going to get the feedback that you need that comes from the simulator of working with other people with points in the heart in a Kabbalistic sort of situation. But keep doing that, because what you feel as a result of that informs your next step and your next attempt, and it makes things clearer for you.
Are you ready, Tony?
I am
okay,
ready.
I just want to say, friends, we have an amazing amount of questions. I have 13 pages filled with questions.
I have to do short answers then.
So, okay. Thank you for that, and let's go. Let's start the blitz. Timer.
Run D clock.
Okay. What's the quickest way to destroy the ego?
Think about other people.
How can I know on what level of advancement I'm at?
You can't until you've passed that particular level, and then you can see it in retrospect.
Knowing that every single thought that I can conceive comes from the Creator, how should I handle my darkest thought and emotions?
It comes from Him. It's there for a purpose. You have to learn how to use that. That's what the methodology is about.
How can Kabbalah solve poverty problem in our world?
Because if we have the correct intention, there won't be any poverty, and it changes through our connection and through our intention. You can't fix it on the physical level.
Are there also new recent insights to Kabbalah? And if there are new insights, what are these?
The new insights are in you as you learn the ancient wisdom.
Can you please define first grade level, Partsuf and Sfirot?
Sfira is a component of a Partsuf, is a complete step on the ladder. It's wholeness. It's when a person moves one level.
Can Kabbalah explain near-death experiences? Are they legit?
It doesn't explain them. Those are things that happen inside the ego.
The saying goes, one rotten apple spoiled the bunch. Does that apply when it comes to work in the group?
Everybody's a rotten apple in the group. And so what we're trying to make is some kind of cider with us, and to turn something that would be negative into an absolute positive through connection.
My career fulfills my purpose of working with others. I am not social after work hours. Am I avoiding spiritual work?
We're all loners. This is the natural tendency. We were created that way. You don't have more trouble than anybody else. I'm the biggest loner you could possibly imagine, and that's what we're developing. That's what we're learning to change.
How does one draw the light?
By efforts in connecting with others, by efforts in trying to feel the things that are in the books. It's through efforts to bestow, and that's about it.
How can one tell if they are advancing spiritually?
If you're having a hard time and you want to leave, that means you're advancing.
Why the Creator remains hidden?
Because he's such a good guy, No, because that's what he's teaching us. That's what we have to do. The ego has to be hidden, and only our thoughts, our otherness thoughts, have to be there. It's an example in nature that everything that gives does not draw attention to itself.
Okay, 13 questions. Tony, well done.
I think there were 19.
Well, 13.
Is cheating allowed in Kabbalah? Yeah, if it's for the good.
Okay, we have our next live question from Joe.
A few minutes ago, in one of the answers to the question, you said that no actions are really random, and that we want to aim to look at the actions or maybe the suffering as a good action of the Creator. And every day in my work, I sit with people who are suffering. And so I'm hoping that you could explain that answer in light of, say, child abuse or neglect, or a young person being killed by a drunk driver. How do we reason about those things?
First of all, you're asking a question about an extremely about the maximum complexity of the human system and the system of nature. But it's impossible to give an answer from that level. You have to give it from the way in which the sensations that you are undergoing in relation to the goal of spirituality. Because the entire world exists in you. All of these things that we see outside of ourselves are our uncorrected qualities, and the way that nature gives it to us so that we can work with it, it is as though it was not us. It objectifies and projects these things outside of us. All of the abuse, all of the war, all of the suffering is the result of our own intention. That's not, in a sense, that's not real out there. It's just, it gives us the ability to work with what needs to be corrected in us. So if we see a flaw in others or a flaw in nature, it is a flaw in us. Some of them are closer to the surface, easier to deal with. The ones that you're talking about are really profound, and they point to the fact that we are responsible for the condition of the entire world. Now, let me just focus this down in a much more simple way, appropriate for your point on the path. What does seeing that evoke in you? You know, in your heart, you are now looking for answers as to what is the primary cause of suffering, and what can I do to take this suffering away. Either it could be, I just don't like to look at it. But if you're already engaged, if that's your work, then you're engaged in helping people. But you're now looking for the ultimate cause and where is the ultimate handle for helping people. This is a good act from above to show you your qualities on that depth. That's a very deep place. External to you, so that you can begin to ask questions about where in me, in my attitude, what needs to be corrected in me? What is the cause of it? What actions can I do inwardly that are going to make a difference out there? That is a good act. That's an awakening act. It's there to make you and everybody else ask, what is the real fundamental cause of suffering? And what is the cure to it? It's not in the bandages that we hand out. It's not in the psychology that we hand. All of those things, they do something and they engage us with the problem, but they're not the solution. They're also not the core problem. The core problem gets fixed when we understand how to use all of those things that we consider to be bad for good. And if you just, and to simplify it even further, you or anybody else are not going to be able to do anything if you think you're looking into the face of the abyss. if you were placed there opposite somebody who requires some help, it's because you're capable in some way of conveying that some light and some help to that person. It's all arranged because it's a part of you that's under correction, and you'll do what you can. But now that you are studying the true cause, you can, there's a deeper medicine here that is not only going to help that person, but it's going to heal you too. And the whole thing is medicine, because the whole thing is under correction, and we're all one creature. So it's you who's suffering along with them, and they're suffering because of you, and you're suffering because of me. And the only way to fix that is to use the basic principle of connection that works over the entire system, and that's what you're learning to do. And that's a good thing.
Okay, next live question from Bernice.
Hi. I'm listening to what you were just talking about. My question, the thing that comes to mind is, there's some efforts that draw the light, and my question, what makes me wonder is, like, how much of that effort or that drawing of the light, or those things that advances, is something that we do consciously and intentionally, and how much of that is still unconscious at a certain level. And a second question related kind of to that, how can that work that we do relates, how can we take the work we do in the group and how we can see it, or how it affect our lives outside of the work in the group? Thank you.
The whole point of learning is to change our relationship with the Creator and with nature and the evolutionary process from an unconscious one to a conscious one. And to take part of it, and actually to get ahead of its wave. We really have to. We're trying to speed up this process, because usually when we're just at the effect of it and we're going by unconsciously, then we're suffering. The whole point of Kabbalah is to get ahead of it and to contribute to the good. Don't worry about contributing to the world in general yet. You have to, there has to be some level of ability and skill with this art before you do anything out in the world. And you'll find that the work that happens out in the world, it happens as a group effort. And there really are no individual actions in reality. And this allows you to consciously come to agreement with that and be able to work with that.
And we'll be moving to our last question for today.
Okay.
So please, live question from Darren. Darren?
How can Kabbalah be used for achieving one's basic desires, such as food, clothing, and shelter?
It can't be used for that, and it isn't used for that. Those things are generally provided by by the sort of animal level, our egoistic forces and our reason. They're made for that, and they're good for that, and that's what we do with those. The Kabbalah is about all of the other. It's about desires beyond that, and once we're working that way, our needs change. We see that we actually have what we need, or we get access to what we need, and nothing is really held from us, because what we truly need is we need to be shown the next step and the next step and the next step. And when we're connected with other people, there is also this other thing that happens in which the work of the other people around us, there's a mutual responsibility in the general prayer for others that happens in the working group that protects and supplies all of those things that are necessary to us, and we don't worry about those things. It's, we have basically what we need, and we're working for another goal. And I wish we could go on. These are fantastic questions, and there are tons of them. But I guess we have to stop here.
Yes, friends, we really want to thank you for all your deep, amazing questions. We couldn't get to many of them today, unfortunately, but it's amazing to see how honest and how involved you are, right? That's just... Thank you again for that. We have a few announcements. So next semester starts July 14th. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook and you want to sign up for the course, you can do that. See links in the chat. Pay what you wish tuition. If you want to participate in the course tuition or simply support the spreading of the wisdom of Kabbalah, you can do so on our Pay What You Wish page. And books. If you are Kabbalah Revealed 1 or 2, you can get your courses book packages with 20% discount. Please check the links in the chats. Thank you again, friends.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Dina, for keeping us on track.
Thank you, Tony. And we'll see you next time.
Bye, friends. Thank you very much.
We'll be forever connected.
Have a good day, guys.
Awesome, H. Bye, friend. Bye.
Nuestro amor gobernará. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, busca любовь нам придется. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, Oshi por el Bakri. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, busca любовь нам придется. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, Oshi por el Bakri. אותה משפחה, אותה הרגשה, מעל הפער שבינינו. The higher we go, reaching our soul, we will reveal that connection. Не важно, что там происходит вокруг, а важна связь между друзьями. Y aunque parezca como un malestar, nuestra actitud controlará. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, busca любовь там придется. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, Oshi por el Bakri. Hey, hey, rise above and feel the love inside. Hey, hey, busca любовь там придется. Hey, hey, de corazones unidos, la cava, Oshi por el Bakri. Hey, hey.